those pregame dinners, and he just like starts bawling. You're only going to go farther, and you're only going to get better if the people around you are better. And I was like, got those 2 gold medals. That's good. Yeah. We'll hang those up.
Welcome to the Athletes in Sports podcast. I'm Max Smith. I've got my co-host here, Andrew Dieters. Very special guest today. We're meeting him for the first time, Mike Fitzgerald. Mike grew up in Minnesota, played basketball at St. Thomas Academy, also played 4 years at the Air Force. And Mike, you're way taller than us, but are you the tallest one in your family?
It's a great question. I am actually the shortest brother. So I have 2 older brothers. I'm the youngest of 5, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, so one brother, he's 6'10", and then the other brother is 6'8". But I got my dad beat. He's 6'5". Okay. And I'm 6'6", so I like to remind him of that as much as I can.
Yeah, and obviously basketball player, but is that what you played? Is that the only sport you played growing up, or did you play multiple sports?
I played multiple sports. My favorites were tennis. I played a couple years in high school, soccer all the way through up high school, and then basketball as well, and obviously basketball extended into college.
Who got you into basketball growing up?
I mean, probably my brothers.
Yeah,
I mean, once you have older brothers, you kind of just want to emulate them and what they're doing. So my brother Dan, he played at Marquette. As a freshman, actually, he went to Tulane and then he transferred to Marquette. So played 3 years there. And then my oldest brother, Kevin, he played at University of St. Thomas here in Minnesota, all 4 years. And then my sisters, they were 3-sport athletes as well growing up. They played volleyball, softball. I'm now escaping what their 3rd sport was. But they were heavily involved in sports. So we're really a sport family. And so I knew at some point I was going to be playing basketball or something.
And was that your parents that kind of pushed that sports side, or was it friends, or what kind of got you guys into being a sports family?
Yeah, I mean, I probably started with Kevin because he's the oldest of us 5. He played, sports growing up, and then he also played AAU basketball here in Minnesota for Howard Pulley, which is a big AAU name still in the state. So once he played, then Dan played, and then my 2 sisters, they, naturally, played their own sports, and then I kind of went in the same route. I played at Howard Pulley basketball, wanted to get recruited and go D1 if I could, and then see where my career went from there. But yeah, it probably just happened naturally through my brothers and sisters. But I mean, my parents also played sports throughout high school. I think my dad played football, basketball. He actually just got inducted to the St. Thomas Sports Hall of Fame this last year. So we got to go to that ceremony, which was great. Really cool. And my mom, she was, very active and played volleyball. She was a physical education teacher as well for a time.
Love that. So at the In Sports Foundation, we're all about just helping kids get into sports and teaching them all of the important life lessons that sports teaches you. What are some of the things that you've taken away from youth sports and then all the way through college basketball playing Division I?
Well, one of the things is it's a process. Right? I mean, a lot of kids these days want, to be amazing on day one. You might be born with certain enable gifts, like you're tall or quick and certain things, but a lot of sports is just developing those skills, right? And so it takes time. So you just got to be patient and continuing to practice, continuing to listen to your coaches, obviously working hard and trying to think about the team first, and rather than thinking about yourself. Because if the team has good success, you're only going to go farther, and you're only going to get better if the people around you are better. So yeah, I've always tried to, for example, for AAU basketball, I tried to go up in a grade just to get more experience. I knew I wasn't going to maybe play as much or be the dominant player, but I knew I was going to be surrounded by a lot of great athletes, a lot of great basketball players. And I think that's what helped push me to be better as well.
Absolutely.
And playing that many sports and kind of getting to the level that you did, there's probably a lot of hardships and tough things that you went through to get to that level. Is there anything that you remember specifically growing up that was a hardship that you got through, or just something that you're proud of, that like you accomplished that maybe a lot of other people didn't. Get through.
Growing up, since the goal on my mind was to go Division I, right, and get to the best program as possible. And so it's always an interesting process getting recruited. Like you have these, high expectations, like I'm going to go to Kentucky.
Yeah.
I'm going to Duke, And then when that initially doesn't happen, you're like, hey, I need to reevaluate my expectations here. And so the recruiting process was difficult thing. But it ended up being the best situation for me possible. Obviously I went to the Air Force Academy. In the end, they were the ones that were continuously, always checking in with me, always interested in, me joining their program. And in the end, that was the one I chose because of, they cared, but also the situation I was going into. I was going into a mid-major basketball program. I knew I was going to get great experience playing against great schools like San Diego State or BYU and playing against great players and being in a big D1 program. So, I had many conversations with my parents on what I should do. Should I wait? Should I walk on to the U of M maybe, or do other things? You kind of just have to trust your gut and listen to the people around you. If they're good examples, and my parents they were great examples for me growing up. And in the end, it all works out if you
trust the process. Yeah, absolutely. I think back, and I wasn't a basketball player, but that whole recruiting process, and like with AAU and like these high school kids, they have all of these decisions to make, and like at the time, it is the biggest decision of their entire life.
Yeah.
Like where do you go? How do you know that you make the right decision? And like what other schools were you being recruited by, and to make the decision to Air Force and like join the Air Force and serve our country, which is incredible.
Yeah, which obviously changed my life, and I'm still serving today. So who knew, right? That would have happened, and I would have stayed in this long too. But yeah, I was being recruited by a few schools. So I got offers from Wofford. I think it was not Utah State, but a school in Utah. Drake had verbally offered as well. And then I had an offer to walk on to the U of M, like I had mentioned. So those were and then Bryant University in Rhode Island. So it actually came down to Bryant University and Air Force Academy. Bryant was, I think, just becoming a D1 program. It was a business school. And so, I had brothers and sisters who got into business. So I was like, well, it's a great business school. It is a D1 program. So they were, a great option. But in the end, they were brand new programs. So I decided to go with Air Force, and the rest is history. But yeah, those were the main schools. And I actually accepted an offer from Drake. This is going back to the whole recruiting process and how it's difficult. But I accepted a verbal offer from Drake. And then I think it was like a month later, they ended up giving it to someone else. So I had to, again, reevaluate, ended up going with Air Force. And again, rest is history. So.
Did you find something beneficial from this Athletes in Sports podcast? Please share this episode with a fellow athlete, coach, or someone who loves sports to help them reach their next level and help kids get in the game.
And did you tour the Air Force before you made a decision there? Because Andrew and I played hockey, and I got the opportunity to take a visit there, and it was one of the most beautiful campuses I've ever stepped foot on.
It's pretty amazing. You don't appreciate it until you left, actually, as a student there, a cadet there. I did take a visit. I remember we went to the obviously I had my time with the coach and took a look at the campus and the main, where the dorms were and everything. But what I remember most is we went to Fast Five, the movie, Fast and the Furious. Went to Fast Five randomly with a couple guys on the basketball team. That's like the only thing I really remember from that visit is we went to Fast Five. And I was like, oh, this is what we do. Okay, cool. We're going to Fast Five and got some food, and that was about it. But it was a good experience. And the campus itself is beautiful, and it's right next to the mountains. And now I've been back a few times, for weddings or other things, reunions. And it's interesting looking back now and watching the cadets that are marching around, and I have like flashbacks, like, oh God, I'm going to go back into basic training. Like it's happening. I'm going to wake up and I'm back in it.
Well, it seems like there's so many great traditions like at Air Force and probably at a lot of the military schools. Is there anyone in particular that you liked or maybe didn't like about being at Air Force?
As far as like the situation or
just I feel like just like different traditions or different
traditions,
things that you guys would do that would be different than going to a normal
getting up in the morning every single day and marching
what is that rigorous
marching to
structure
breakfast
like?
So
you came from St. Thomas Academy, so
I know
you had that structure already
I knew how to march going in. I knew how to wear the uniform. So I kind of had a leg up going into basic because of coming from a school that had a JROTC program, and that's what St. Thomas has. So I knew those basic things, but St. Thomas, it's just a piece of the school, right? I mean, it's all boys, college prep, Catholic, and JROTC. So that's just one piece of the school. So we wear a uniform every day, but I don't know if it's different today, but we just had one leadership class in high school, right? Okay. Where it's military specific.
Okay.
But at the academy, it's your 24/7.
Okay.
Because we're being trained once you leave the academy to be officers for the Air Force. And so everything you do from class to to even just formations to exercises to the summertime, it's all military. There's a reason behind everything, basically. So the one thing to answer your question, did not enjoy for sure was waking up in the morning and marching to breakfast every day. What time
was that at?
I don't remember specifically, but it was probably like 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just had practice for 3 hours the night prior. Excuse me. I just want to like eat a burrito and go back to bed. I don't need to be waiting, in formation and then marching as a squadron to breakfast. And
this was every single day?
Basically, they would change it up throughout the year, for certain reasons. But that was a tradition we had to do. And it's unique, right? I mean, if you think of it, what university, the entire X amount of students are eating breakfast, lunch at the same time. Right. But service academies, obviously, they do that because they're trying to develop unit cohesion, we're a unit or we're a squadron, and kind of teach those, things where you always have your wingman, you always have your person next to you. You're not on an island here. So
nobody's sitting alone at lunchtime.
Yeah. There's no sitting alone. Nope. There's no sitting alone,
So does that create that brotherhood and like that collaboration and team and family? Like that's
100%.
Obviously what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, basic training is its own kind of beast because they're kind of, in a way, trying to break you down and get some of those bad habits out and then build you back up throughout, the rest of your years at the academy.
High level from the outsider looking at, what does basic training exactly look like?
And again, I don't know if it's changed since when I was there, but it was 6 weeks long, split into two sections. So the first 3 weeks was kind of, your initial orientation, right? Getting to the actual campus, getting set up into where your dorms will be. And the way it works is you have a flight or a group of kids that you'll be going through basic together with throughout the entire time. Once you get through those 6 weeks, you then go split off into different squadrons for the actual school year. So then, my freshman year, I was living in a, basically like a block long, like dorm room space. And, there's rooms next to each other. And that's my squadron. So you're all kind of grouped into your own squadrons for the year. But during basic training, the first 3 weeks is just the basics of learning how to march, wear the uniform. They give you a haircut, right away, and they give you your medicals. No mustache. It was just it's like kind of like the movies where you sit in a chair and they buzz your head right away.
Wild.
Yeah, it's wild. But that's what I was signing up for, right? I was, prepped ahead of time of what I'm actually getting into, and I think that's from going to the St. Thomas and kind of understanding, and then just talking to people. Like, this isn't just any kind of university. It's a service academy, and there's reasons you're here past basketball, right? There's a bigger picture. So I knew what I was getting into. And so after those 3 weeks, you then go out to it's called Jacks Valley. So it's right off campus, but it's on the base itself because it's surrounded by a base. And you live a mock deployment environment where you're sleeping in tents and going through different exercises. Again, still with your basics, basic training flight of kids. But now you're
not survive
Nope.
that.
Nope, not one day.
So then you're in a different environment. You're outdoors. You're getting up, doing PT outdoors. You're, et cetera. But it's interesting. You see yourself kind of get more confidence as you go through it, though, and that's kind of the point of it.
Yeah.
Right. Is it's kind of the shock value in the beginning of what you're getting into, and then you're like, oh, like they're teaching you how to be a leader, right? And those are just so important. I mean, being an adult, like even in my everyday job now, I'm so thankful for what I went through at the academy, because it's prepared me so much for life and not getting stressed, about little things as much.
And as an athlete at Air Force, was that tougher? Like, were all the athletes, because they're practicing and they're working out for their team, but then there was probably some physical things that you had to do on the basic training and everything.
Yeah.
Was that, did you guys feel like you were complaining about certain things? Like, I did this at basketball practice, like, and now I got to do this for school, or what did that kind of feel like for an athlete on campus?
Yeah, it's a great question, because there's kind of two groups at the academy. There's people that don't play sports and people that do play sports. So the people that don't play sports, they also complain that, while you're at practice, just, your everyday sport, we got to be at the squadron, where our dorms are, going through, like training sessions, I'll call them.
Okay. Yeah.
Lots of push-ups, doing their own physical activity, and also mental, exercises that they have to go through, reciting different passages and being tested by the upperclassmen. So they would have their own perspective, right? But our perspective is, well, I got to wake up with you every morning, right, with my brother and sister, and go to breakfast together like you're doing, do all my classes in the morning before lunch, and then after lunch I have about an hour until I got to go to practice for 3 hours, then go to dinner, then get my schoolwork done somehow. Right?
There's like not enough hours in that
somehow
day.
Get my schoolwork done, wake up, do the exact same thing, and then I got to also travel, right? I got to make sure that I'm getting my homework done when I'm traveling to games, during conference, right, or non-conference games. Take tests on the road sometimes, right? So it's the time management of it all that becomes the thing that, you as an athlete at the academy might be complaining most about, because it's like, how do I get all these things done? Like, how do I do this?
But you did probably get a little bit of a break from what the academy had for physical activity because you were on a sports team.
Yeah, I'd say, well, we both are getting our own physical activity done, but
it wasn't like double.
I'm getting some breaks from the kind of the mental side for a minute, right? Because my focus is in practice with the coach. That's its own mental exercise, I guess I would say. But, they're having like, reciting the passages, military quotes and things like that, things that are going on and being tested mentally at the dorm rooms that maybe I wasn't seeing every day. So looking back, I get it why they might think we had it easy, but we'd always say like, hey, do you want to go to practice for 3 hours and see how it is? Like, there's days where I'd rather be them, in their situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you are not currently serving, you're on reserve now. What does that look like, transitioning from Air Force to where you're at now?
Yeah. So I was active duty from 2013 till 2022.
Okay.
So I am serving, but I'm serving as a traditional reservist, so it's part-time. So I'm here in Minnesota. I work in the financial management squadron, and we essentially take care of the customers' travel vouchers, or if they're coming back from a deployment, making sure their pay records are being adjusted and correct, and working with debts and different things. And making sure that services on base are being paid for on the budget side. So very important job. But yeah, it's a transition, going from active duty to part-time, right? But I love my reservist family. still being able to develop my consultant career full time, but then also being able to put the uniform on and serve my country and serve the people around me is it's great. It's a great situation because you get best of both worlds, right? And I get to stay in one place, which is really nice. In active duty, if you get new orders, you're going regardless, right? Or you end up deciding to separate if you can, based on how much time you serve. But now I plan to be in Minnesota, serving at that reserve base as long as possible, and really till the end of my career, if I can.
Hey everyone, I want to take a quick moment to tell you about the In Sports Foundation. At In Sports, we're all about helping kids get more involved in sports. We do this through providing free camps, scholarships, and team sponsorships, all to help reduce the cost of sports and getting more kids into the game. Through sports, kids can learn valuable life lessons, stay active, and maintain their mental well-being. To support our mission and help us get more kids into the game, visit our website at insportsfoundation.org to make a donation. Together, we can make a difference. You touched on mental health a little bit, and that's something that we really focus on for the kids that are part of our In Sports Day programming. So we have a program called Be the Best You, where we teach kids about self-confidence, self-regulation, like breathing techniques. Is there anything that you learned, whether it was at St. Thomas Academy or at the Air Force, that's like really stuck with you, just for getting through a normal workday can be a grind sometimes, but as an athlete, like there's a lot of mental health things, mental health tips that you need to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah. So at the Air Force Academy, they talk about always having your wingman next to you, right, and being there for your wingman. So the way I kind of apply that to today is if I am really feeling stressed, it's important to get it out, right, and not let it fester inside of you. So, I'm married to my wife, Kylie. She's now become my person who I might vent to, but
your wing person,
my wing person. But it's so important, right, to not let those frustrations or fears or everything kind of deep inside you, because then it can eat at you a little bit, and it kind of affects your mental state, your ability to live your life healthy and to do your job if you have a job. And speaking kind of diffuses that stress, right? It diffuses, and you start to hear the words and hear that, like, okay, this actually really isn't as big of a deal because you're vocalizing it, and the person next to you can reciprocate that, and if you're not hearing it, they can tell you, like, it's okay, like we'll get through it, and I'm here to help you. So having that person next to you that you trust, it just goes back to like having that good team around you,
right? People
that you really trust and you want to lean on.
I just recently heard something about like long distance runners, and some of the best runners are because you're by yourself for a long period of time, and the ones that start listening to their thoughts are way less successful than ones that talk to themselves. Like, they can pump yourself up because you can't control all the different thoughts that you have. But when you whether you're speaking to somebody else or speaking to yourself, whether it's in your mind, that can really just help you navigate some of these crazy thoughts that might
for sure.
come in your head.
Definitely.
So now, graduate, because you graduated Academy 2013.
Yep.
Are there still sports that you're playing now to stay physically in shape and keep your mind sane?
No, absolutely. I haven't played as much basketball since I graduated. One of my assignments, I was living in near Boston, and there were a lot of guys that were post-college that had played D1 or other programs, so we had a really good pickup basketball group. But since I've moved back to Minnesota, I've been playing a lot more pickleball. I play in this league called Hot Dish Sports. Check it out. It's definitely a great league. It's new. It's a couple years. So it's relatively new, but it's a great pickleball league, and I share it with a lot of my friends. So that's one. We play every Sunday. And then also I play in sand and indoor volleyball. My wife played at Rutgers indoor volleyball. And so that mixed with my friends who also play the sport and had played in leagues, it kind of just that's where my attention has been going.
Yeah. Well, it's great to have things where you're feeling social, but you're also staying active at the same time. And especially if you can do some of those things with your spouse, it makes a big difference.
Oh yeah. That's fun. There might be some arguments, mid points, but it's good. It's good. Again, it's good to get it out, don't let it fester.
Right.
And I apologize for my lack of knowledge on like the Air Force and serving. I just want to say like a huge kudos to you and thank you for your service.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Just from like the outsider, I think the people who don't serve take it for granted for everything that you all have done for 100%. This country and like the freedom. And I really think that goes under noticed. So thank you. With that being said, like the whole tapping out during the Air Force, like what was that experience like for you? Since everyone there has maybe seen that like tapping out during graduation, like what was that?
Oh,
for those who haven't,
at the Air Force Academy, like graduating and getting
right.
up. Yeah, and throwing up the hats in the air and everything. Yeah.
And it's like standing still until somebody comes to tap you on the shoulder. Did you have to do that or no?
No. So we didn't have that necessarily. Okay. Do you mean like in basic training or do you mean when we graduated? Like,
so
coming
again,
to tap you
my
out.
lack of knowledge, but like where you stand still until somebody comes to tap you on the shoulder. And then you can,
I think I know what you're talking about. It might be in other services.
Okay.
But
you didn't have to.
Yeah. So like for the Air Force Academy, like we have during basic training, it's a very stressful time.
Yeah.
But there's a family day at the end, kind of like in freshman year. I don't know if it was right after basic training or if it was, it must have been after basic training, but you've gone through this whole gauntlet. And we had a similar moment where I was able to see my dad and he came by and my mom wasn't able to go at the time, but my dad was there. But yeah, and then graduation is this also just huge relief because you've finally gone through 4 years of the academy. You've done it. You're about to be paid as a officer soon. You're about to have your first assignment and go off into the world and serve. So that's I'd say both of those are just huge moments of relief, and you get emotional too because you've put in all this effort and accomplished something that that you'll be proud of, especially at the moment, but especially like later in your life. Like that's what I always think about. Like, even though it was tough going through the academy and I don't know if I would do it again, to be honest, it was tough academically and all the different stresses. But I always say like, I'm super proud to have done it and to have completed it. And it's the 1%, not many people get to do it and have that experience. So, very thankful for my time.
No, and playing, I think I read 117 games you played in for basketball.
Sounds about right.
Something like that.
Probably in that range. Yeah.
Are there any big key moments that you remember as like,
great question.
Like when you look back and you're like, oh, I wish I could go back to that game or
so many memories. Yeah. Well, do y'all know Jimmer Fredette?
Oh yeah.
Jimmer, back in the day, he was,
I think, playing.
Leading in the nation. Yeah, I think he just played in 3v3 Olympics. And is racking up the money in China or wherever he is right now, but still playing. So one of my highlights of my career was blocking Jimmer.
Let's go.
The first play of the game when the BYU came to Air Force Academy, because they were in our conference for I think 2 of the 4 years. So that was a memory. Playing against Kawhi Leonard, that was also awesome. He was at San Diego State. That was a great memory.
Did you block him too?
I didn't block him. No, but his hands literally, like, you remember everyone say he's the claw, right?
Yeah,
his hands are massive. It's insane. It's like 2 people's hands you're like trying to grasp when you're like in the handshake line, after you lose to San Diego State, basically. So that was a memory. Just being with my brothers, on the team and traveling. And I even think there's a funny clip online of someone from, I don't know if it's Boston College basketball team, but they had just lost the NCAA tournament. And I think they were at the tournament and their season's over. And one of the people asks him a question, right? He's sitting up like this and like, what was your biggest memory of your time in college? And he was like, those pregame dinners, and he just like starts bawling. It's like, honestly, those are the bonding moments, right? Of just like going to dinner, with your buddies and
the locker room environment,
and just hanging out and things like that. So
yeah, because you can go continue pick up basketball or whatever, but it's never the same of being with your close friends in a locker room and training together, working. There's nothing that can replicate that
for sure. And then one thing I will mention was actually after the academy. So once you leave a Surface Academy, and if you can actually try out for, it's called All Air Force Sports. So I think the other services do have it, but you can try out and you basically play basketball while you're serving 2 months out of the year, and you get to travel and play in tournaments.
Oh, cool.
So I got to play against the Army's team, I think it was the Marines, and I think Navy as well. And then after you play in that tournament, you get to form a Team USA and go over to Belgium and play against other countries. And so it's kind of like the military Olympics, essentially, but they have it every year. And then I think there's another even higher level called CISM where it's every 4 years, similar to the Olympics, and it's an even higher level. But I got to go to Belgium, play with Team USA, and play against other countries like Italy and Lithuania and Canada and Great Britain, and got to travel to Germany and practice. And it was really cool because it was almost like you're part of Team USA. It's like Team USA's little brother because it's the military Team USA. But
did you still whoop up on all the other countries?
Oh, like 2 gold medals.
Yeah,
2 gold medals.
Awesome.
I think it was 2014 and 2016. And the best part is you're still serving, right? You're still in the Air Force full time, but you get to leave for 2 months and go play basketball or play whatever sport you want based on whatever you did growing up. Soccer. They have other sports too.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it was really cool, and they still do it today. I think the tournament for the gold medals, it's called Shape. It's in Belgium, and I think it's going on 60 years now.
Is there an age limit, or can anybody?
No, anyone can do it,
Wow.
and any rank, right? So it's enlisted officers, anyone. Yeah, so we'd play like Team Italy, and I don't know their military situation over there. I don't know, but we're playing against like 35-year-olds who look like they're semi-pro. Like some of them were semi-pro or pro, because there's so many different pro leagues over in Europe. But
it's like the Soviet Union miracle game, 1980.
Yeah, but like on our team, we'd have like a senior airman who's like 21 going against guarding this guy who's 35. So there's definitely an age range. But it was an awesome experience, and kind of wish I could have done it a third time, but my body got old. Yeah. I was like, got those 2 gold medals. That's good. Yeah. We'll hang those up.
I think that's the toughest thing for like athletes. Once you hang them up and like you're done, is like you would give anything and everything to like go back into that college locker room and even high school locker room and like play sports and be competitive again. Yeah. And just to know like how quickly that time goes, and like looking back, it's so fast.
It's super fast. And then you end up just having those positive memories that last in the end. Right. And that's the type of perspective that you kind of wish you had in the moment, right? Instead of worried about taking my chemistry test or whatever while I go to practice, and then go to practice and do everything. But thankfully, I think our brains are kind of wired to, in most cases, I'd say, like later on in life, you always like remember the good moments that really stick with you. Yep.
Awesome. Anything else in sports?
Well, have you been doing any like youth basketball things, coaching or volunteering or?
I did a little bit when I was at my first assignment right out of college. I think I coached a church league of kids, and at the time, not at the moment, no, but I'm looking for opportunities to help out and volunteer.
Maybe that's something when we have we've actually sponsored quite a few different AAU programs that struggle financially to get players playing, and we're always looking for ways to enhance their programming and their experience, and we run a lot of camps throughout the year, so maybe there's something we can do down the road.
Absolutely. Let me know. Like I said, I'll lace them up again, teach them the fundamentals.
It's all,
get
all
those
about
good
the basics.
Those good basics in. Yeah,
awesome.
Be happy to.
Awesome. Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you for your service, and we hope to see you on the court at some youth basketball camps in the future.
Sounds good. Thanks for letting me be here.
Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Athletes in Sports Podcast. If you want to hear more inspiring stories from athletes, subscribe to our podcast and follow us on all of our social media channels. Let's keep inspiring kids to get in the game.